So now let's look at this $100,000 2% coupon bond one more time. And we looked before at the fact that if you paid $103,000 to acquire this bond, that the yield to maturity would be lower than 2%, which was true. All right. Now the question is, if you paid $104,000 to acquire that bond instead of the $103,000, would your yield to maturity be higher or lower? And of course the answer there is that it would be lower, because you're paying even more to get the same stream of payments, and so that it was lower here than it was here, and it's certainly going to be lower on 104 than it is on 103. The converse of that is, if instead of paying 103 you paid 102, would your yield to maturity be higher or lower paying 102 versus 103? And the answer there is it would be higher, because just like we looked at in the other situation, the less we pay, the higher the yield to maturity, and the more we pay, the lower the yield to maturity. This all relates to the fairness of prices that you're going to receive on bonds, whether you're on the buy, sell, or the sell side. The buy side or the sell side, all of these transactions go through the secondary market, and they're all accomplished through a brokerage firm. And the question is, how do you know whether the price you're paying is fair? Or how do you know if you're trying to sell a bond that the price that you're being paid is a fair price? And how does that transaction usually work for you? So I'll tell you the situation that we have seen that has come up, and this is how the process goes for most investors in bonds, whether they're mutual insurance companies, individuals, or whatever. The broker, who again might be calling himself an advisor, might even be calling himself fiduciary, but at the end of the day they have some profit either directly or indirectly from the transaction. They call you up on the phone, they say, hey, guess what, I got a bond available today, I'm going to sell it to you at this price, it pays a coupon rate of this, and it comes due on such and such a date, what do you think? And you look at that and you think, gosh, I could use that. We've got some extra cash laying around, and you say, sure, go ahead. Well, that's normally how these things happen. Well, in that situation, you've just been had. How do you have any clue whether the price you paid was fair or not? If the fair price on this bond was 103, you don't know if you paid 104. You don't know if you paid 102. All you know is they called you and they said, here's the price, and you said, yeah, go ahead and do it at that price. So you really don't know whether the price was fair. Secondary market trading in bonds is similar to dealing in used cars. The goal of the broker in the secondary market bond area is to profit by buying a bond from somebody for as little as possible and then turning around and selling it to someone else for as much as possible, just like a used car. And unfortunately for you, and this is the key point right here, oftentimes the broker is going to set the price not based on what is fair or anything else. The only determinant of price is going to be the level of sophistication of the buyer. They're going to price that bond at whatever the market or whatever they see you as being willing to bear on that price. Here is an interesting set of information that bears directly on this point. A couple days ago, we went out to the market to take a look at some pricing on various pricings offered on exactly the same bond. So here is a Hewlett-Packard bond, okay, issued by Hewlett-Packard, and I apologize if this is a little small to read, but I'll go through some of the details with you. The coupon rate, or that's the interest rate being paid on the bond, is 2.125%, and the maturity date is 9/13 of 2015. Okay. The rating on this bond is Baa1, BBB+, so it's an investment grade bond, not A, but high end of BBB. So those are the details on the bond. But the point I wanted to make is this. This is a list of offerings by different brokerage firms for this exact same bond, and look at the difference in prices at which this bond would be sold. Here's a price right here. You can go to this broker and get this bond for $100,000 bond for $101,588. All of these are different prices. And then down here is the highest one. If you went with this broker, you pay $102,396. So the point of this is that when that broker calls you and says, here's a bond, what do you think? And you say, go ahead, you have absolutely no idea where you are in the spectrum. Are you here paying this price for this bond? Are you here paying this price for this bond? Are you somewhere in here paying this price for the bond? You have absolutely no idea. And look at how the price of the bond affects the yield to maturity. Here is the yield to maturity on this bond. At this price, it's 1.482%. And down here, at this price, it's 1.159%. So it's over a 0.3% difference in yield, just because of the different prices at which this bond is being offered by different brokerage firms. Another interesting point here is take a look at what they're doing if they want to buy this bond from you. So here's what they're willing to sell this bond to you for. Here's what they're willing to pay you to buy this bond from you. So $100,376 is what this broker is willing to pay you to buy this bond. So they're going to buy it from you for $100,376, and they're going to turn around and sell it for $101,891. So $1,500 difference on a $100,000 bond between what they'll buy it from you for and what they'll sell it to you for. Down here, it's even worse. $100,540 is what they're going to charge you, or what they'll pay you for your bond, and they're going to charge you $102,400, so a $1,900 difference between what they're willing to pay you for your bond and what they're willing to sell it to you for. And so this is the whole point of this whole exercise. You've got to do your homework. You've got to look at what the resulting yield to maturity is on the bond, given the price the broker wants to charge, to determine whether that price is fair. And this is the key difference between what kind of an entity, between the different kinds of entities that you might be dealing with in this transaction. Because if you're dealing with an entity that is in one of these two areas right here, they are going to be profiting from the transaction, and so they're more likely to be on the higher end when they're selling this to you, giving you what they feel like, you know, the traffic will bear before you'll get too nervous about it or whatever. Whereas when you're dealing with somebody that is in the fiduciary mode, the fiduciary is going to be out there understanding this is what goes on and trying to get you down to this level in terms of a price you would pay to buy. In fact, they may try to get you down more to this level here and close this gap. And then similarly, if you're going to sell bonds, they're going to try to get that price increase for you. Interestingly, if you look at the difference, if this was a $100,000 bond, and you look at the difference in price between buying the bond at this price versus buying the exact same bond at this price, the difference there is going to be $800. One of the issues we have when we talk to boards of directors of mutual insurance companies is they say, well, gosh, we got to pay you a fee. We're concerned about having to pay you a fee. Well, look at here, an $800 difference on one bond transaction would be enough to pay a fee for over 2 years for our work in guiding you on this kind of thing. So this is where just to focus on what you're paying for fee maybe loses sight of how all of this works for you, because our job is to try to get those prices down as much as possible. I wanted